Hi everyone, I'm Barbie Jean, and today we're talking about shame, specifically what it is, then kind of institutional shame like religion and education and how to deal with that, and my tools that I use to move through shame. So yeah, let's get started. First things first, shame happens to everybody. It's this central feature of human experience, intimately linked with the self-perception, social worth, identity, relationships, positions in social groups, and it's like these normative boundaries that make us feel shameful. It's often a painful experience, feeling flawed, unworthy of love, belonging, connection, but it's ultimately this fear of disconnection, and it arises when we're perceiving ourselves, our core self, as inadequate, inappropriate, immoral, and it just can feel really painful on our bodies. But society is so used to it by now that there's like chronic shame, and it's becoming invisible. We don't even recognize when we're feeling shamed anymore. Instead, there's these behaviors that dominate us, whether it's withdrawing, avoiding, attacking ourselves or attacking others. But these behaviors just kind of mask or cope, or, we use them to avoid or just circumvent these painful feelings that we're feeling. So I think that it's really important to recognize and become aware, perhaps, when you might be feeling shame. But if it is invisible on your body, it might take you some time, so be patient with yourself. This is a process and a journey, not a sprint. But ultimately, we experience shame daily. We do. Whether it's our appearance, sex, religion, discrimination, labels, there's so many. But the easy way that I notice when I'm experiencing shame is when I start shaming myself, which is that negative self-talk. It's, saying I'm stupid, or for me, I often feel sexual shame. And so I'm like, I'm too much, I'm too sexual, I'm too kinky, something is wrong with me, or I'm inappropriate, so those are kind of that negative self-talk kind of moves through me and comes to the forefront of my mind. And when that starts happening, it's destructive, it's powerful and dehumanizing, and it can really make you change your personality and feel like a different person. When I went live in public with this YouTube channel, I was feeling pretty shamed by some people and strangers and loved ones, and I just felt judged, and I was feeling really heavy by it all. It was a lot to go public and share it everywhere, and I was so proud of myself in so many ways, but it was also just intense to open up about my personal relationship and my sexuality. And so I started being just like really uncomfortable to be around. I was on edge and combative and just kind of withdrawn. So that kind of made me realize after some time that, what was really happening was I was feeling really judged. I was feeling this shame experience, is what I like to call it. So that was really painful. And instead of feeling the pain on my body, I chose to, kind of reject the pain and be more combative. And I was arguing with my partner, and I was just being just not myself. And the more you recognize when this intense, painful experience of shame comes up for you, the more you can breathe through it. I love this practice that I shared with you on one of my previous episodes, where you focus on how this emotion is making your body feel and breathe through that pain on your body just for a minute or two. And that can just be very weightlifting, and it can feel really good just to become aware of those sensations. But what I do first when I start having these negative feelings that I'm too sexual or too much, or I'm crossing people's boundaries and something's wrong with me, I have my positive mantras that I repeat to myself. And some of those are: I am a divine, beautiful, sexual goddess. I know who I am, and I am enough. Sex is a beautiful expression of my loving spirit. Stuff like that, reminding yourself that you're beautiful, and sex is a part of your spirit and your body and your soul, and it feels good, and it's a part of who you are. And just kind of repeating those mantras in your head can be really just help with snapping you out of that negative spiral of shame. Now, I also feel like I've been really critical of myself since I launched this YouTube channel. I'm like, all the ums and the you knows, I'm just being very critical of myself. And when that starts happening too, when I'm in the editing room, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, Barbie, be gentle, be patient with yourself. I'm just say I'm in the beginning of this journey. It takes time. Those natural pauses in conversation will come naturally with time. Just be gentle, be gentle. And, sometimes we don't realize how harsh we are to each other or to ourselves. And it's just important to be positive and remind loved ones to let them know, check each other when they're being negative to themselves. I have girlfriends that sometimes say ugh, I'm the worst, or I'm so stupid. And it's just no, you're not stupid. You made a mistake, or whatever it is. Just remind them that you don't have to shame yourself for this act, just reframe the words, which I guess leads me to my next thing. Next to positive mantras, I think just reframing your mindset and the way that the shame experience makes you feel so negative and harsh and destructive and dehumanizing. So reframing it, again, when I think I'm too much, or I'm too sexual, I say, or too kinky, I say, wait a minute, I like kinky shit, but I'm not the only one. Or I like to be a freak in the sheets sometimes, but that's a connection that fuels my fire and makes me feel alive and will make my partnership long lasting. Focusing on these positives instead of these negatives, I guess, is where I'm going with that. But just reframing it can be really beneficial. As well as journal writing, I just think writing things down in general is very healing for me personally, but I think for hopefully a lot of you as well. Writing down how you're feeling, what's coming up for you, how it's, reacting on your body, just being aware of this shame experience so that you can recognize it in the future and move through it in an easier way is ultimately what I am hoping to give you today. So the mantras, the reframe the shame, and then journal, I think is really good. Even just having that distance away from you and the paper can sometimes be really good, just because sometimes you need that space away from that negative energy. Now, speaking of energy, let's move into institutions that have shamed us, religion, education, and those can be really heavy because that's often in our formative years, and it's kind of passed down generationally as well, and so it's very intense for a lot of us. Gratefully, I went to church at a very liberal and progressive church, but still there was this disconnect between sex where it just wasn't discussed. Even in school and education, I felt like it was more talking about abstinence and less about actual STIs and STDs, or I don't know, it just felt very distant for me, and that made sex feel shameful. So I know a lot of you have even, bigger religion weight because, again, you were told that it's immoral to have sex before marriage. But I think the best way to recognize that and move through those feelings is to focus on your values. And you can value God as well as intimacy. I personally think it's this sacred act. It's not just this physical act. It is a way to connect to these spiritual energies within us. And, integrating sex and spirit to me feels really right. And when I'm at the peak of my climax, I feel this divine energy between me, if it's just me or my partner, and it's powerful. So I think, even just creating this sacred space for you can be really beneficial, or setting intentions before the sexual experience, or saying a prayer, or meditating. Just leading with intentionality and becoming more mindful can help with this, this separation that these institutions have created with us in pleasure and us with, sexual experience, and just recognizing how you can value multiple things and how they can even be intertwined, I think is really beneficial for at least my mindset, and I hope that helps you. But ultimately, I do feel like your body is a temple, and that's one of my other positive mantras is my body is a temple, and I choose to fill it with goodness. I'm a divine, beautiful, passionate goddess. Whatever it is, I have a few, and I just kind of like to repeat those to myself when I'm feeling in that negative spiral of shame. So again, I just think that creating that sacred space and recognizing that you can value your body as well as your mind and your soul and your sex organs and everything about you, I think it's just crucial to accept all of that, and it will really help you connect to that spiritual energy. And you also, with trauma kind of echoes this pain or vibration on our body, and sex can really help dissipate that or let it out, and it can be very spiritually healing as well as lead to spiritual growth. And I just think that spirit and sex should really be hand in hand and linked, and that just feels really right to me. So I hope that you feel like the more you open up and become a part of this, your divine sexual god or goddess self, that you feel closer to whatever it is you believe in. So lastly, creating healthy boundaries with people that are still shaming you and judging you heavily. It's so depressing how same-sex relationships and non-traditional monogamous relationships are still judged so heavily by loved ones, and that can just be so heavy and painful. And we often, feel shame even before we open up to loved ones because they've shamed us in the past. And we have this huge fear of disconnection. And I just think personally that it feels really good to open up and let people know your intimate truth. Again, I guess I'm blessed. I came out to my mom. I remember this day like it was yesterday, back in not long ago, like 2019. And, she responded great. She said, I love you. I'll love you no matter what. But I just had to tell her that I have had sex with men and women, and I didn't even say the word bisexual, but just letting her know because she's one of my best friends and I talk to her so frequently. I just felt like I was hiding this part of me, and it just felt all of a sudden, just one day, I was just like, this is too much. I have to let her know. So I'm just telling you that sometimes when you carry that weight for so long, it can become debilitating, and you just, by letting out and sharing with someone you love, or even finding those shame-free relationships, whether it's online or even me, feel free to reach out to me. But figuring out those relationships that you can lean on when you do have, these difficult conversations with loved ones, if they don't go how you hoped. And just recognizing that even if it does go south, it still is going to be very healing for you, and it will be a weight lifted no matter what, because hopefully you'll be able to have a conversation again about it, or maybe even just having that conversation will give you a different perspective perhaps, or make you just understand them a little bit. I'm not sure. It's tough. It really is. But I hope that creating healthy boundaries is something that you will do. Let people know when they're stepping too far or disrespecting you, making you feel shamed and inadequate and unworthy. Let them know that. And I think if we focus on these feelings and the shame experience, then we're going to all lead happier and healthier lives. So again, positive mantras, reframing the shame, journaling, recognizing your core values, and seeing, sex as this sacred act, and creating healthy boundaries are all kind of my takeaways for dealing with shame. And ultimately, shame, like I said, is this fear of disconnection. So when we're having this shame experience, remind ourselves that connecting will hopefully make you feel better. So when you're feeling this fear and this inadequacy and unworthiness, lean on somebody, or, like I said, an online forum, or just a shame-free, sex positive, if it's sex shame we're talking about, but this can translate to a lot of other shame as well. But just figure out those areas or people that you can lean on that'll make you feel better, and that will support you and love you no matter what relationship you're in or what kinky story you tell them. And I think if we continue doing these things, you will feel loved and supported. And I just want to finish with telling you that you are not too sexual. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not too big, too small, too floppy. You are passionate and kind, and you are a divine, beautiful sexual goddess or god, and you really don't deserve shame. I believe in you. Be patient with yourself. This practicing dealing with shame is going to take a lifetime, but it's good to start now, please. Thanks again for being here, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my channel if you're enjoying it. Much love. Talk soon.